Hey, welcome back everyone to a December update for this Sling build. As you can see behind me, there's the rear fuselage and there's the center fuselage. And let's take a look real quick at some of the work that's been accomplished. I've got some video clips on the controls itself to go into some detail, but I'll flip the camera around real quick just so you can see where we're at and what's going on with this build. All right, so in the video clips, we'll talk about the foot pedal controls. Obviously, these are looking pretty good. The sticks, those need a little bit of work. Got a couple of accessories to still put on. I've already got the screws laying here for mounting them. I want to put a couple more accessories on. Obviously, I need to do some rivets, and I need to put these stops in place for them, so they'll be ready. This guy here is very interesting to me. It's closer to being in alignment. It feels like the front could lift up a little bit more. So feels like the front could lift up a little bit, and then the alignment would be much better on that side. So that's one of the things I need to check in on. And I think the front skin, once that's installed, will actually help me to hit these. So likely, I'm not going to connect the sticks, and obviously I'm not going to put the plates on, the covers and all that until I get the side skins on, and then we'll see what this area kind of does. The jig is on, so that's nice. So this is helping me as well, kind of make sure we're in alignment with the rear fuselage, and this part looking really good. The rear fuselage, this is all riveted, nicely done, and wasn't any real drilling involved for these holes to make sure they aligned. There is, I think, 2 or 3 in the center here that I had to drill, but everything pretty much aligned, which was great. Very little work here. The elevator control is moving really nice. I have this piece temporarily in just to hold everything in alignment as well while I test fit that. I really like that. I did add rivets to the tops of these, because that was something there was a hole for on one side but not a hole for on the other side, so I did those, and that's really nice. And then of course the skins, wanted to make sure this is the side skin, obviously, of the rear fuselage. It overlaps everything else, and so this is the bottom skin of the center fuselage, and you can see the way that it's lapping on that side. But rear skin, bottom skin, center fuselage skin laying over that, and then the side skin laying over that, and it makes that nice kind of water resistant kind of like seaming, where you think about the water cascading either down or moving front to back as the aircraft moves through. Now, with this thing attached, obviously it's fairly long in the garage. I have enough room to really put the firewall, to put the engine mount frame, and then drop the front fork with a landing wheel in place. So that is super good. But I can tell I'm already a little bit sideways in the garage, and that's because I didn't want to push too far back But if you guys are building in a 2-car garage without a bump back like I have, you will run out of space, and you will need to move the plane more and more sideways as you go, especially if you think about mounting the engine. And so that's something that's coming. But you can tell this thing is pretty long at this point. And yeah, it's basically at the back of what I would consider my regular garage without the bump out. I am waiting for Torrance to send me the bulkhead. So they have it supposedly along with another crate for myself. The upholstery crate actually came in December, so they have that as well in Torrance. And so I'm hoping they just put those two together and send me that as a single unit to make that a little bit easier on them as well. But once that's in place and it's warm enough to prime, then basically I have all my skins laying here for the rear that I can start working on. But before that, while I have access as well, it's an opportune time to think about my ground height advisor, the GHA. That is going to end up getting drilled through over there, so I have that ideally open. And then an antenna location for COM2 that is going to get somewhere around here as well. So I'll take care of that in the coming days. But let me show you the video clips of the controls, and that way you can see what I've done to work on that, and we'll continue from there. All right, Autopilot servo. So this one is really fun because it's in the spar, main spar carry through. Yeah, so it's kind of put in there, right? And so there's 4 bolts holding it together, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. The top ones are longer, makes it a little bit easier. Now, let me get to the back side. The back side, you have to put a washer on and you have to put a nut on. Now, it's kind of complicated to get in there. So what I did is I used my fingers to kind of get the washer on, and then I have this longer tool, and I poked the washer on all the way, and then I put the nut on. So here I have a nut, right? And so I just grabbed the nut, squeezed it, locked it in, and then put the nut through, and then took care of it. And of course I have my torque wrench, and I have an extension on the socket as well to try to get those guys in there. That one's the hard one. This second one is the easiest one. I already have the control link bars partially assembled for each one. I have them basically sitting here ready. I am doing this, notice before I have all the other control tubes in, because with all the other control tubes in, I mean, this gets crowded really quick, right? I mean, this is going to go in right here. This one's going to go down there. I mean, the more stuff you have in here, the harder it is to get into the tools. And so be smart, right? Get in there while you can. If you have the parts, do them, especially in the front one. This one is way more accessible, so way easier to get this Garmin Autopilot controller in on this side than it is that one. So be smart and think ahead as you're building. All right, for this last servo, the top 2 are easy for the bolts. The bottom, I ended up, I just used a little of that B7000 to glue the washer to the bolt, and then it fits into there, and then it's just right into the socket. So then it's just a matter of lining it up to make sure that it goes in and then tightens. So that makes it a little bit easier as well. And there's not much accessibility here, but there's this slot there to get the tool through. So that's going to be the main point of access for that bottom one. The other side, I found it easier to get the ratchet through this side and then connect, and that gives me more play to really move the ratchet on that side, because you don't have much play on the top, or on this side you don't have much play to really move, because you got the arm there to the limiting arm, right, to protect the servo from going too far. You got that sitting on there as well, so causes a little bit of a problem. Cool. All right, so I just did about an hour's worth of work on this thing, and this is really nice. So I had two problems with this lower control tube. So my first problem was the bearings were a little bit tight. So I did do a little light sanding on the inside of the bearings. Now, these bearings come pre-installed, right? This thing here, the retaining is going to get riveted in eventually, right? So what I had to do is slowly inch in a little piece of sandpaper here and move that bearing back and forth to get some play in it. That worked really well in freeing this up. I also did some very light sanding on the tube. I didn't do very much on it, just give it a little bit more of a polish there. My main problem is so after a while it was still tight, even though the bearings were free spinning on the tube itself. So I could take the bearing like this one and I could just spin it freely. And I was like, okay, it's not the bearing issue in this case, right? It wasn't the bearing issue on this one. So what was it? Well, the tube ever so slowly worked its way over to one side, and that's because one of these ribs is just a little further that way than the other, and so it's got a kind of angle to it. And so what I did was I tested this theory by just taking off the bearings that I could and spinning the tube and seeing what it looked like. And then after a while, I just looked at the distance between the tube itself, right? And said, how much distance is over here and how much distance is over here? And that was slightly off on that side. So let me walk over there real quick and let me grab the tool that I used, and I just took my deburr tool, and what I found was this side had a little bit less gap than this side. So I created a little bit more gap. You can tell these are the metal shavings that I took off. There's not that much metal here. I can use the deburr tool, and I did like 7 or 8 passes on this thing to just work on this wall by itself, and that gave me enough to get that tube nice. And now I've got this really smooth motion here going on, and it's very light, and it's almost like it wants to fall over, but it doesn't quite fall over. So I think that's perfect. And now I got the top one to do. I'll save that one for another day. Of course, this is the flaps tube, right? Because I got the motor installed here. And I'll show you something real quick. One thing that I don't totally like is that the castle nut and the pin has quite a little bit of distance here. Instruction manual says use 4 thins on here, and I may use a thick washer or a regular washer on the outsides to try to get a better tightness against the pin hole where that retaining pin comes in to secure the castle nut. So I may do that separately. As you can tell, I've just got this test fitted right now. And I did this purposely because it is super easy to take this apart and then fit the little washers in here while I can still take one of these ends off. So pro tip, don't rivet that in place. Just leave them clecoed and use some rivets there to kind of like make sure the alignment is super tight and correct. And then you can take this on and off while you're playing with the right setting here for this guy. But this looks correct to me. This was the way it is at the build center too. The instruction actually has the washers, actually has 2 washers on each side on the inside. That's not possible. So that's that. Again, I'm going to do, I did the first one tonight. I already did the rudder pedals. The rudder pedals themselves are super smooth as well. You can tell like they just fall over perfectly. So that's awesome. Bottom one's done. I'll save this one for tomorrow night. It'll be done as well. And then I'm not putting the tops on yet. I'll do that in a little bit. But then I got the control sticks to get in as well. And those will be easier to get in when I can still take out, especially the flap tube to make sure I can get where I need to be, which is basically right in this area to mount the control stick, which is going to come basically through this area, right? And this is going to get connected to it. It's really the elevator controls, right? So not the elevator controls, maybe aileron controls. So it's going to be right there as well. So it'll be right there. Kind of cool. And yeah, that's what I got for right now. All right, let's take a look here at the control stick. Now, I have the control stick off right now because we're powder coating part. So I did put in I'm not going to rivet these, obviously, because there's parts that go in front of this being one of them, right? The cover plate has to go through, make that. So that's something that's there. And then, of course, the top plate also. All right, so we got that. So got it in place. The back, kind of, it needs to go up like this. So I got that sitting right there. And if this works right, we should have, it's pretty good motion on that. Now, honestly, this thing was a pain in the butt to do. I did a lot of sanding on the inside of the bearing, which meant, because the bearing, the bushing's already on here, means that you have to slowly work sandpaper into the bushing or do something else to get there. I had the sandpaper kind of wedging in there to get that to go. When I had this bushing spinning freely on there, it was a good indicator that I was getting close. I also had to shave the inside of these guys as well. So I had to shave the inside of this part and the inside of this part. And that allowed also these rivets to align nicely. Before, the rivets weren't even coming into alignment. So that was also a good indicator that I was in the right spot. So this moves pretty freely now. I'm pretty happy with it. So control stick. The other control stick did the same thing with, and also worked really well. For the elevator side of the house, this guy actually turned into more of a pain in the butt than anything else. It's working really good. And you can tell like it really moves nice. There was a bunch of rib alignment things, which I think, again, will still bug me. when I go to connect the fuselage here. But I am not gonna rivet these in place, because getting a rivet gun in where I need it to go to connect the rear fuselage to the center fuselage, obviously this stuff is going to get in the way. So we're going to take this part out. We test fitted it. It's probably going to change once the ribs get connected and there's new pressure on the ribs, a different angle, whatever. It's gonna cause the material to change a little bit. Let me show you. Let me set up for the flap tube as well. That one actually was pretty straightforward. Let me drop that in real quick, and then I'll show you it as well. All right, so here's the flap tube. And it's super smooth as well. Like, it almost falls over. So it actually does fall over. So that's kind of nice. There wasn't really much problem on this guy. It was a little bit of trim on the ribs that caused me, again, that motion side to side kind of thing. That caused me the most problem. With the other guy in, I still have really good movement on this one as well. So that's really nice. If I had to complain about anything, it's probably that I don't like the motion yet on the sticks 100%. I may go back and play with it more, but right now it is what it is. Now I also note that it looks like the fuselage itself is going to kick up slightly here as well, because these rivet holes don't totally align until I give the front of the fuselage just a little lift up, and then everything starts lining in place. So these control sticks may also change alignment with the whole connection happening. So the real thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just end up leaving it all clecoed kind of in place like it is now. We'll get the front connected to the back now that this stuff is basically kind of test fitted, and then we're going to see what that changes, if anything. And then before I do much more on these sticks, I probably want to get a little bit more structure in as well, just to make the thing a little bit more rigid. Also, just to make sure everything locks in place and there's no additional motion that's going to be caused by some pieces coming up connecting to this stuff. I've already shown you guys the pedals. These are super free moving as well. And about the only thing I've done here is I've got the eyelet, and I think I may have shown you guys that as well. So those are sitting there. Yeah, so that's where we are today. Pretty excited about, again, this process. This took, it took 4 hours today to get 2 control tubes and 2 flight sticks in. And then, of course, I spent some hours on the first one just even figuring out how that would work. But I'm excited about it. Things are good. And let's move forward from there. All right. So, well, you've seen the videos of where this is at. Obviously, this is taking some time. I knew these control surfaces were also going to take some time to work, because you want them, again, to be super smooth as you work them. So that takes some time to get done. And it's now going to be January. It's going to be super cold. The garage basically is going to be right at freezing for the better part of the next month, which is not really appealing for me to do a lot of work in. So I'll probably get in, do 20 minutes worth of work maybe a day, something like that, whatever I can tolerate. And it'll probably mostly be parts gathering, like making little baskets of the miscellaneous assembly parts for each next step of the build, and that way I can pick those parts up pretty quick and not have to search for them in their individual bags. But I'll have the components kind of like laid out, ready to go for when I do get a warm day. Then I can just do that and not have to continue from that perspective. Engines. So there's a lot of talk right now about what's going on with Rotax and the work that needs to get done. So there's two major kind of maintenance bulletins out there. And I know a couple people who are very close to flying their aircraft and are looking at taking apart their engine and putting it in a crate, driving it somewhere, or having someone come to their house and do this work as well. And for people who are close to flying, this is, kind of sucky that you have to go back and kind of disassemble all the things that you did a lot to get ready for that. So kind of heartbreaking that you have to stop, do a repair, and then put everything back together again. So that takes time. But in this case, losing generators on the engine, or having a problem with the oil system itself, that's kind of critical to take care of, and so that's what you have to do. My engine, I need to talk to both Sling, and I'm going to talk to Lockwood Aviation next week and start that process for a 916. I have heard that Lockwood is significantly easier, cheaper in some regards for accessories like the alternator. I do have questions, though, that I need to ask Lockwood. For instance, if I do an engine from them, will they do the intercooler customization that is required for Sling? So, for instance, intercoolers that you can normally get for a Rotax, the intake and outtake are usually like both on one side, both one on the top, one on the bottom, one with a turn bracket or one straight kind of thing. But for Sling, it is basically one on the top front and then one on the bottom side. And that is a customization. It's not one of the three intercoolers that Rotax normally sells. So basically Sling blocks off a top side, and they put a hole on the top front for it, and that's where it comes in. So if Lockwood can do it, if they can do it cheaper, maybe I'll talk to them and order an engine through them. I don't know yet. I don't really have a preference as of yet. It really depends on how much Sling wants to charge for an engine and how much Lockwood wants to charge. But I do know, like, an alternator kit, I think Sling charges like $3,000 for it, and Lockwood is like $2,200-$2,300 for it. So $700 right there is a pretty good savings, and really at the end of the day it's going to go right back into the plane, because that $700 is, new oil, cable, oil lines, and that kind of stuff, right, for the engine that should get upgraded anyway. So we'll see from that perspective, and I'll let you guys know in the coming weeks of what I did as well, as far as Lockwood versus Sling, and why I did that when I get it all buttoned down. All right, but that's it for this week, you can tell it's cold in the garage, and yeah, I'm ready to go back inside and call it for right now. But yeah, maybe a little bit later, I'll work on some of these controls again and do a little bit of tinkering as we go. All right, see you guys.